strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Hello and welcome to the West Asia Post. I am Ghadi Francis, coming to you from Beirut, Lebanon, and this is WION's weekly show where we bring you all things new from the world's most volatile region. Egypt has come up with a plan to rebuild Gaza, one that does not involve giving Palestinian ancestral land to Donald Trump to make a Riviera. Before we dissect this and all what's happening in the region, let's take a look at what's making the headlines. Our top story is about rebuilding Gaza. After 16 months of war, the strip has been flattened. Now, Donald Trump wanted to expel Palestinians and rebuild it as a Riviera. The Egyptians have another plan, and the Arab leaders are all agreeing to Egypt's plan. What is the bigger picture here, and what is in sight for Gaza? Listen in.
We hope that the Arab Summit will implement its decisions and carry out reconstruction as soon as possible. We will not leave Gaza, and we shall die in Gaza.
The Arab League has endorsed Egypt's plan to rebuild Gaza, but the Palestinians are only cautiously optimistic. The $53 billion plan aims to rebuild Gaza as well as the lives of Palestinians in the next 5 years. It focuses on emergency relief, infrastructure restoration, and long-term economic development. The plan is broadly divided into 2 phases. The early reconstruction phase is expected to last around 6 months and will cost $3 billion. Egypt plans to set up 7 designated sites in Gaza to accommodate over 1 million Palestinians in temporary housing units. Egypt says it has already set up a committee with competent Palestinians who will administer Gaza for these 6 months.
An agreement have been reached on the names of the interim committee that will govern Gaza Strip for 6 months, and at the same time empowering the Palestinian Authority to become able to carry out its duties and responsibilities in the Gaza Strip. This committee is non-partisan, that doesn't belong to any faction.
The second reconstruction phase will take place in over 4.5 years. The initial stage, running up to 2027, with a budget of $20 billion, will focus on rebuilding essential infrastructure, including roads and public service facilities. The second leg, that is expected to last till 2030, with an estimated cost of $30 billion, aims to complete infrastructural projects, including industrial zone, commercial fishing, and seaport. The plan proposes an initial supervised trust fund that will be supervised internationally. Cairo is expected to host donor conferences to gather funds. The Egyptian plan sidelines any role for the Hamas in Gaza and envisions its future under a reformed Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian president says he is ready to hold elections in all Palestinian territories.
We would like to emphasize that we are fully prepared to hold general presidential and legislative elections within the next year if the appropriate conditions are available in Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem.
Just like in Lebanon, the plan raises the prospect of the UN deploying a peacekeeping force in the occupied West Bank and Gaza. Israel says the Arab League's Gaza plan fails to acknowledge the realities of Hamas's October attack on Israel. US President Donald Trump's special envoy called it a good first step from the Egyptians.
I just finished reading it. There's a lot of compelling features to it. We need more discussion about it, but it's a good faith first step from the Egyptians.
While the Arabs and West remain firm on how they view Gaza's future, will the Arabs and Muslim League be able to convince Washington to rebuild the lives of Palestinians in their ancestral land?
Speaking of October 7, Israel's security forces have issued a report about the attack, about the failures that led to the October 7 attack. Now, this report has shifted blame to other bodies. Were the Israeli forces solely responsible for this failure, or were the Israeli administration about Gaza policies also responsible? This report tells you more.
Israel has a new military chief. Hours after entering his role, new Israel Defense Forces Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, met with IDF's top brass and announced a series of decisions. One of Zamir's first decisions was to appoint an external panel of experts to re-evaluate the military's probes on Hamas's October 7 attack. During his appointment ceremony, Israel's 24th military chief swore to eliminate Hamas.
We won't forget, we won't forgive. This is a war of survival. We will continue to fight to return our hostages and to achieve victory. The task assigned to me today is clear: to lead the IDF to victory.
The new chief also ordered closing of IDF's Iran unit. Israeli media says Zamir has placed the photos of the remaining hostages in his office and has vowed to bring them back. The outgoing Israeli military chief, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, led the IDF until a ceasefire was reached. Halevi resigned, accepting his failure over Hamas's surprise assault on Israel.
I embrace it. The responsibility is mine. I was the commander of the army on October 7th. I bear my own responsibility, and I also bear the full responsibility for all of you. And I acknowledge in every subordinate of mine who made a mistake as part of my own.
Halevi also called for an independent investigation to understand the root cause of Israel's major security lapse on October 7th. Israel's Internal Security Service, Shin Bet, published a summary of its investigation into the Hamas attack. The agency chief, Ronen Bar, accepted his shortcomings, saying the attack could have been avoided if the agency acted differently. While the probe pointed out some internal failures, it mostly pointed the gun at external agencies. The report released on Tuesday included an unclear division of responsibilities with the IDF, an overly defensive government policy regarding Gaza over the years, and the Shin Bet being unsuited to counter an army-like foe like Hamas. Investigations found that the Shin Bet failed to provide an alert for Hamas's October 7 attack, with warning signs received by the Shin Bet on the night of October 6th. One of the biggest alerts was the overnight activation of 45 Israeli SIM cards by Hamas operatives in Gaza, a story widely reported on, but without an exact number confirmed until this report. Several reasons were given for Israeli agencies' failure to report on the attack. Hamas's ground invasion plans, which were obtained by the IDF in a document known as Jericho's Walls, were allegedly not handled correctly over several years. The Shin Bet's focus was on foiling terror attacks, and its methods were not applicable to an enemy that acted like an army. The agency assessed that Hamas was trying to heat up the occupied West Bank and not the Gaza Strip. The Shin Bet said IDF's botched 2018 intelligence operation in Khan Yunis made it more difficult to recruit human intelligence sources in Gaza. The agency found several reasons for Hamas's strength. One of them was the flow of money from Qatar to Gaza and its delivery to Hamas's military wing. It also found Hamas's willingness to carry out its attack due to several reasons. The major reasons were the cumulative weight of Israeli violations on the Temple Mount, the attitude towards Palestinian prisoners, and the concept that Israeli society was weakened. Even after 16 months of war, Hamas is present and involved in Gaza's future talks. While Israel aims to eliminate Hamas's military and governing capabilities, it is unclear how it will attain this goal.
Lebanon's newly elected president, Joseph Aoun, made his first foreign trip to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The trip is said to be a booster for Lebanon's economy. After years of feuds with Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman and Joseph Aoun have agreed to boost the economy. In the next report, we tell you why this trip was crucial for Lebanon. Listen in.
Saudi Arabia is reviewing obstacles to resume imports from Lebanon and end a travel ban to the country. The Saudi policy shift on Beirut comes after Lebanon's President Joseph Aoun met Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman during his state visit to Riyadh. The two heads of state highlighted the need to support the Lebanese army and make Israel withdraw from all of Lebanon's territories. The meeting signals a massive shift in Riyadh's outlook. Since 2016, Saudi had halted $3 billion worth of military aid to the Lebanese army for its ties with the Hezbollah group. Saudi's interest in Lebanon's politics is a recent development. As the preferred candidate for both Riyadh and Washington, Aoun's election was facilitated by a weakened Hezbollah and the overthrow of its ally Bashar al-Assad in Syria that changed the power dynamics in Lebanon. As the army chief in 2017, Aoun had launched an operation targeting the Islamic State group on the Syria-Lebanon border. The success of the operation boosted Aoun's position as a leader and his connection with countries like US, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Since taking over as president, Aoun has pledged to usher in a new era, in which the state will retain monopoly on weapons in the country. Since the 1975-1990 civil war, Hezbollah has been the only faction to retain the country's weaponry.
My pledge is to exercise my role as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces and Chairman of the Supreme Defense Council, through which I will work to affirm the state's right to monopolize the bearing of arms,
Meanwhile, the situation remains tense in Lebanon after 15 months of the Hezbollah-Israel war. The Hezbollah group has promised to pay for reconstruction and is assessing the damage and distributing funds to the residents in southern Beirut. The World Bank has estimated infrastructural damages worth $3.4 billion in southern Lebanon. However, the amount is well beyond Hezbollah's capacity to provide. So for now, the Lebanese group has taken a step back, accepting the government's role in attracting foreign funding, in which Saudi Arabia is expected to play a critical role.
Iran's economic crisis has reached an unprecedented critical point. In the recent, the Minister of Finance, Abdul Nasser Himmati, has been dismissed, and this reflects on the gravity of the situation. Now, with the US sanctions and its maximum pressure on Iran's economy, how is the situation right now in Tehran? Listen in.
Iran is facing the heat, not only externally from the West for its support to anti-Western forces, but also from within, from its own rapidly sliding economy. The Iranian parliament dismissed the country's finance minister, Abdul Nasser Himmati, amid growing concerns over a crashing rial and accusations of mismanagement.
Total number of lawmakers present, 273 votes taken. Votes for the impeachment, 182. Votes against, 89. Abstentions, 1, and invalid votes, 1. Therefore, Mr. Himmati failed to regain the vote of confidence from revered lawmakers as the Minister of Finance.
Iranian President Pezeshkian, who defended Himmati, emphasized that the government is locked in a tough battle with the West.
Donald Trump came to office and signed an order into law that sanctioned a lot of our ships in the sea. They are wondering how to deliver and offload their oil and gas and other shipments.
Reports suggest that in an attempt to counter the spread of weapons via sea route, US President Donald Trump's government is mulling a plan to inspect Iranian oil tankers at sea under an international accord. Trump hit Iran with 2 waves of fresh sanctions in the first weeks of his second term, targeting companies and the so-called shadow fleet of aging oil tankers that sail without Western insurance. Iranian leaders argue that without these sanctions, the economy would be in a much better position. But while the sanctions may have played a role in Iran's economic slump, they do not explain the long-term financial decline. The official records show the currency that stood at 595,500 riyals per US dollar in August 2024 has now depreciated to 927,000 riyals per dollar.
People can't afford to buy anything. I bought this toy for 43,000 tomans and have to sell it for 50,000 tomans. I feel ashamed to sell goods at such high prices. We can see with our own eyes the harsh economic conditions people are facing. It breaks my heart. I hope God helps this nation.
Himmati's removal also highlights President Pezeshkian's failure to deliver on his campaign promises. When Pezeshkian took office in mid-2024, he vowed to improve Iran's economy by stabilizing inflation, strengthening the currency and securing foreign investments.
I consider the normalization of Iran's economic and commercial relations with the world as Iran's inalienable right, and I will not stop on the path to lifting the cruel sanctions.
Relatively seen as a moderate leader in presidential office, Pezeshkian has so far been unsuccessful in courting the West to lift sanctions on Iran. Beyond the sanctions, Iran's escalating tensions with Israel are also contributing to Tehran's economic instability. Fears of an Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear facilities have led to uncertainty in financial markets, discouraging foreign investments and causing businesses to defer long-term planning.
A historic ceasefire deal between the Kurdish PKK and Turkiye has stirred mix of emotions among Kurds in Turkey and Iraq. Will the 40-year-old conflict end? We tell you more in this report.
People in Turkey's largest Kurdish majority city rejoiced after a momentous ceasefire announcement on Saturday.
I hope it will be good for the organization to lay down arms. Of course, those who do should be forgiven, not oppressed. We hope that in this way, we will reach a positive result for our people.
Kurds in Iraq's Suleymania Street watched Turkiye's pro-Kurdish Dem party read out jailed PKK leader Abdullah Öcalan's letter.
This message that Abdullah Öcalan has sent now is a message after 26 years of struggle in a prison oppressing humanity. In this moment, I rejoice greatly because our struggle has been victorious.
Iraq's national security advisor urged Turkish forces and PKK fighters to withdraw from the country's north if a peace plan between Ankara and the outlawed group is successfully implemented. PKK's presence in Iraq has been a recurrent source of tension between Baghdad and Ankara. The group holds positions in northern Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdish region, where Turkey also maintains military bases and often carries out ground and air operations against Kurdish armed groups. The announcement is a culmination of the revived peace negotiations between the PKK and President Recep Tayyip Erdogan 20 years after their fragile ceasefire collapsed. Even though Turkish President Erdogan welcomed Öcalan's appeal, he warned the PKK group against stalling disarmament.
If the promises given are not kept, and the process is somehow tried to evolve into Oriental tricks such as stalling, delaying, deceiving, changing names and doing whatever it wants, we cannot be blamed for what happens. We will continue our ongoing operations if necessary, without leaving a single stone standing, without leaving heads on shoulders until the last terrorist is eliminated.
Uzattığımız elin havada bırakılması.
Kurds make up around 15 to 20% of Turkey's population. Their struggle for autonomy has been long and bloody. In 1978, Abdullah Öcalan, now in his 70s, formed the PKK, demanding an independent state within Turkey. In 1984, the PKK's demand turned into an armed struggle, and in February 1999, Turkish authorities jailed Öcalan. In 2013, secret negotiations led to a successful ceasefire that collapsed in 2 years. So far, the violence and attacks have claimed over 40,000 lives and displaced hundreds of thousands. In West Asia, the Kurdish community is spread across Syria, Iraq, Iran and Armenia. Like the PKK, other nations also have their own armed groups. Syria's Kurdish-dominated democratic forces and Kurdish civilians have welcomed Öcalan's declaration. But the SDF leader said the PKK's dissolution did not concern the Syrian group that is seeking an integration into the Syrian army. While details of this historic change in Turkey are still awaited, many questions still remain unanswered. Will Öcalan be freed from prison after PKK heeds his call and the group successfully disbands? Can the Kurds and Turkish authorities reach common ground via negotiations to ensure the minority community retains its culture and identity?
Resilience has a face. Its face is Gaza and the Palestinians there. On the rubble and the ruins of their homes, Gazans had their first iftar meal. Take a look.
This iftar today came to strengthen people's steadfastness, strengthen their spirit and enhance the spirit of social cohesion in the month of Ramadan. The month of Ramadan is the month of goodness and the month of tables, where all people gather. Today there are no homes for people to go back to and sit in, so we decided to make an alternative, which is a long table. We gathered people around this table, thousands of people.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, always bringing you the most recent updates, news, and ground reports from the world's most volatile region. I'm your host, Radi Francis, signing off from Beirut, Lebanon. For more global news, keep on watching WION World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Catch me on Token Money Magnet, only on WION.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
Unlocking the future of finance.
Dive into the world of tokenization with me
as we yield the power of tokenization.
Discover the future of
ownership, where I decode, demystify tokenization for you.
Empowering the tokenized revolution.
Get ready to dive for an in-depth look at tokenization.
Busting the myths around tokenization.
Catch me on Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet, only on WION.
As Ibrahim Ali Khan makes his grand debut, we look at the other upcoming star kids of Bollywood.
Hi, I'm Neena Gupta and you are watching me on WION.
Meet Indian actor Neena Gupta as she talks about her latest release. And find out the actors running in the race for James Bond. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION E-Club at these times.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world.